Good afternoon, everyone. आवाज आ रही है? First of all, I'm very sorry for our first session was interrupted too many times because of network issue and some other technical problems. Now I would like to introduce Aniket Mule from Mathematical Sciences, the School of Mathematical Sciences. He is delivering our next lecture, the fourth lecture of our coursework schedule. Aniket Mule, sir. Hello. Dr. Aniket Mule, sir.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes,
sir,
good
am I
afternoon.
audible? Good afternoon.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. You are the co-host of the meeting. You can share your PPT. Good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Aniket Mule, our delivering the next lecture for our coursework. Please be patient. Please cooperate. Thank you so much. Next, Aniket Mule, sir. Please go on.
Thank you very much. So before going to start the session, I would like to just tell you that I would like to directly focus on introduction of SPSS and its utilization in data analysis. Just a minute. Sinku sir, I have already joined the corresponding session. Okay, sir. Okay, all right. So what I would like to do, I would like to share you the screen first. Just wait for a minute. Okay. Does the screen is visible to all of you?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, all right. So today I'm on statistical analysis using SPSS software. So statistical package for social sciences. This is the corresponding long form of that SPSS. It has been taken over by IBM. So now it's IBM SPSS statistical software. It is one of the comprehensive software. It is a menu driven. You are having the data set with you. Can easily perform the analysis of your data set, whatever may be the corresponding aspect you have. So before going to start the corresponding data analysis or actual analysis of the data, I would like to just share you the things that the type of research or purpose of research will be different of each and everyone's purpose is different. So somebody may want perform exploratory study, somebody may wants to perform descriptive study, and somebody may perform the corresponding explanatory study or explanatory research that we have. Yes, so this is the corresponding window of SPSS software. Once we have opened that one, so it asks you what kind of task you have to perform over here. So either if you are having the data set with you that you have already entered in the corresponding that SPSS software, then you can directly use that one. Otherwise, what we can do, we will go for the blank sheet first. So it is essential that we should able to do the corresponding data insertion in this SPSS software. As just I am going to cancel this task. Okay, I will cancel it. Yes. So if we observe this window, then what we found, it is just similar to your Excel sheet, right? So you are having the number of cells, and what we found, there are number of menus are given over here, right? So here at the bottom, you may found that data view, and the corresponding second will be what? Variable view. So here now we have corresponding activated data view form, and just I will click on the corresponding variable view. So in variable view, just I would like to mute all. Okay. So here what we observe is, so we are having the respective name, type, width, and decimal, label, values, missings, columns, and alignment, as well as the corresponding measurement and role of that variable, right? So there might be a possibility that some of you may perform the corresponding experimental research. Some of you may perform survey-based research. Some of may perform historical research or case studies, right? So based on that, some of you may collect the data from survey from the common people, as well as some specific special purpose survey might be there, or you can just focus on some special case studies, right? So in that questionnaire, so first of all, you might be develop the corresponding questionnaire. I have assumed that in this research, you are able, or you are familiar with the term that you are able to collect the data set, right? So you might be able to get the idea about what is the primary data, what is secondary data, right? So the main part of data will be what? Means what will be the variable under study that you have, what is the nature of that variable is, whether it is a discrete in nature, whether it is continuous in nature, right? So if you are having the basic idea of this, then we can easily perform the appropriate statistical analysis, right? So our main interest is to analyze our data set, or to perform the scientific analysis of our data set. All right. So here, initially, what is the difference between this Excel sheet and corresponding this SPSS sheet? So here, what we can do, what will be the numerical entries we are going to enter over here. Suppose, first of all, we have gathered some information, just like what name of the person, as well as person, right? What I will do, I will just write it down. Suppose name of the person will be Ram is there, then Sham is there, Sham is there, right? So what I will do, I will just extract the thing over here. Okay, so what I have to do, yes, so I have to define width first. So see here, what is my first variable name? So I will just define over here name of the person. Okay, right? So it is a string, qualitative characteristic type, right? So you should able to understand what is the variable is and what is the corresponding type of the variable is, right? So I will just click over here, then you will get some different types of your variables, right? It might be in numerical form, right? According to database, if it is time dependent, then we can define the respective time in the pro forma of date and all these things. If you are having the corresponding some special string values, in terms of what currency and all these things. So we can define the respective terminology with the help of that one, right? So characteristic of, suppose what is the length of characters, suppose I will define over here 12, right? So I will again go to the data view, then I can write over here Sham, right? So it will not gives me any kind of sound over there. Then suppose Ganesh is the third person, right? So I am having the information of these three different persons of their different ages, right? So I will define their age in terms of what, suppose 45, second one is of 35, and then next one is of 25. It is just for understanding purpose, because we are interested to deal with the data set, right? So we are interested to deal the or analyze the data set scientifically or in proper manner, right? So just I am moving towards variable view, then it asks me the corresponding variable name. So I will define over here age, and suppose we are interested in age in terms of what, numerical form, and it is in the form of what, in years. So what I will do, I will skip these decimals. I will define these decimals as 0, right? So in the next label, in the label format, while we are defining the variables at that time, it is not possible that you can give the means what will be the size of that variable name will be what, it should be in short manner. So here we can define the respective term or that question, what is your name, right? So just I would like to tell you for basic purpose, right? And then age, what is your age, right? So it will just define the corresponding variable, right? Missings are not there. So if data set through online mode or any hard copy mode, then what we can do generally, we have, if question is sensitive, then peoples or respondents are, sometimes they are trying to skip the answer of the question, right? If you are going to perform some questionnaire or fill up the questionnaire from the respondents from suppose in a mall, right, from the corresponding customers, then they might be skip some of the questions. Reason will be what, somewhat different. But if you are filling the corresponding questions through online mode, and if you have made that question as a compulsory, then respondent may give some of the answers, right? Or they randomly may choose any one of the option if it is predefined. If there will be predefined answer, then it becomes your questionnaire will be what, structured form, right? So in that situation, you will not get the missings. But if there will be an open-ended question is there, if there will be an open-ended question, then what we have, Ajinkya, do you have any question? Ajinkya? Ajinkya? Ajinkya Market. Okay, all right. So see here, just I will move towards what, the corresponding data view. Then what we observed, it gives the corresponding name as well as the respective age of the variable. And just I am moving cursor on the respective variable, it gives me the complete question. What is your age, right? And in the name, what is your name, right? So this is somewhat, we have entered the database in the corresponding that SPSS file, right? So now what we are interested is, suppose we are having the number of questions with us, right? Or whatever may be the corresponding laboratory experiment that you have performed. And then the next task is what? First of all, if you have not coded the data set, then you can give the respective codes to the what we can say structured answers. And then we will move towards the next part, that is what, data transformation. Means we are going to make the pre-processing of the data set. We are trying to rectify the questionnaire first, right? What may be the missings are there, what may be the corresponding questions. For that we are not getting the respective answers. These are what, these are in terms of non-response cases, right, for the respective questions. So first of all, what we will do, I will just open one data set. With that, I would like to explain the number of things with which we can perform the descriptive analysis or exploratory study, or what we can say, we can perform the explanatory study also, right? So we are having different kinds of data set with us. Data collection is the main task for it, right? So it comes under method of data collection and all these things. I have pre-assumed that you are familiar with it, right? Because I'm just focusing on analyzing the data, or we are analyzing the data with the help of what? Proper statistical tool, right? While we are publishing the research articles in the corresponding reputed journals, or journals having the high impact factors at that time, they might be asked the corresponding primary data set to you or data files to you. They might be validating the corresponding analysis that you have performed. So for that purpose, you should perform the analysis in a proper manner or in a scientific manner, right? So data entry is one of the important part, right? So most of the times, those who are not from statistics background, they most of the time they are having some confusions like that. They have just performed some summary tables, they have performed some graphs and charts, but some of them they do not use the corresponding analytical test as T test, F test, Z test, or so they are quite worried about the corresponding that analytical test and all these things, right? If we are having the corresponding qualitative characteristics or variables with you, then how we can deal with the corresponding that statistical tools, or we can analyze the respective that data set with the such kinds of test, right? So it is the part of interest. So what I will do, I will open one data file. I will open one data file, and in that data file, I have already entered the data set. Okay, I'm having the corresponding. Okay, I am having one survey data with me. Okay, all right. So I think it is visible to all of you. So what we have, I am having the corresponding information of people's, those who have got infected by the corresponding corona disease. This is my data set with me. We have collected the primary information from the corresponding peoples from the various places. So here you can observe that I would like to share you the variable view as name of the person, age, gender, occupation, and all these things. So these are the corresponding variables that we have used. Near about 86 variable we have used for the study, right? So most of them are in a corresponding numeric form. Some of them are in string qualitative characteristic form, right? And these are the respective questions that we have. I have defined over here in the form of labels, right? So what I have did over here, I have defined the corresponding age in age group form, right? So one entry will be what it is from 29 to 35 actually. Okay, so what we have, first group that I have defined in the structured form, that what is the age group of the respondents 0 to 10, then 11 to 18, 19 to 28, 29 to 35. I have splitted the corresponding data set for the simplification purpose, right? So I am interested to get the corresponding information that for different age group peoples, or for what will be the corresponding disease cause or disease to the respective persons, or what kinds of age group. For that, the respective disease will be what, or a main target of the respective kinds of age, right? I have made the number of codes over here, right? Some of the questions are only yes or no types, right? So it is a binary code that I have defined, right? And for the disease, in terms of what symptoms that we observed, right? Various kinds of pains they have, or redness of eyes and tiredness and all these things. For that purpose, what I have did, I have used the corresponding that Likert scale in the form of what? Only means mild, severe, and absent, right? 3 different forms. All right. So this is somewhat data set I have entered, right? So I have already checked whether there is any missing or not, right? So my questionnaire is structured, so there will be no chance of having what? Missing observations. All right. So suppose anybody wants to check what is the meaning of these 2, 3, 2, 6 and all these terms. So you just click over here, value labels in SPSS. So you will get the corresponding that age group idea, right? Or what things that you have defined for your analysis purpose. So you can just click over here and then you can recode it, doesn't matter, right? So age will be what? It is in terms of, just I would like to show you, right? So I have defined in terms of what? 1 and 2. So information I have already stored over here, right? So next part is we have to perform the analysis, right? So there are various kinds of options that with the help of that we can consider the open the store existing file and all these terms, right? We can export the database from this file also. That is also an good option present over here. Whatever the analysis that you have performed, that you can directly convert to the Excel sheet, or you can convert PDF file or Word file, right? If you want to insert variables, then also you can add it, right? So I would like to just focus on analysis of the data set, right? So first of all, whatever may be the data set you have according to your objective or research perspective, what we can do first, right? Suppose we are having large data set with us. So initially you can perform, or if you want to just explore your data set, then what we can do, you can use descriptive statistics, right? In descriptive statistics, you can count the corresponding frequencies of the variables, right? You can explore your data set in terms of graphs and charts. You can perform the cross tabulation, and whatever may be the large scale data set, you can summarize in a single table form, right? So for that purpose, we can use these descriptive statistics, right? So suppose I would like to just tell you that we are interested to count the frequencies of how many number of male and females are there, right? So, and what will be the different number of age group peoples are there, right? So just I will select these 2 variable, right? So display the respective frequency table, that we have to select option, right? So I will select these 2 variable and click over this arrow. Automatically I am interested to get the respective frequency table of these 2 variables, right? So in statistic option, what we have, yes. So most of you are familiar with some of the basic statistics. So either you can compute the corresponding percentiles, or you can split your data set in the form of quartiles, or different equal groups sizes, right? So you can select the appropriate option here, right? The second thing is, if you are interested with what the corresponding average value or central value, and with that you have to describe something, right? Just like what? Suppose the number of students are 127 now present in the class. So what we can do, suppose we are having the corresponding percentage or master level percentage, we are going to just enter all the values of each and every person, right? And at that time, what will be the corresponding average percentage present over here? All the students, what is the average percentage, right? So for that purpose, I am going to make the use of mean, right? So mean is what? Mean represents the, on an average, the corresponding students is having this kind of percentage, that I can say something. I am going to explore the corresponding information with that, right? So what we can do with the help of that median, median divides your data into 2 different parts. Okay, right? That divide data into 2 equal parts, right? So we can compute the median, but it is no need to compute over here median. I will just keep that part. Mode. What is the meaning of mode? Mode is nothing but the most frequent value. Most frequent value or more number of times repeated value or highest value, right? So suppose what we are interested in the classroom, I would like to ask the question like that, what is your favorite color, right? So at that time, so color is what? Color is a qualitative characteristic. Somebody may give the answer red, black, or magenta or whatever, right? So all the observations or whatever choices are there, they are in the qualitative characteristic form. If they are in qualitative characteristic form, so what we can do, we are interested to get what is the color having the highest frequency we have, right? Or what we can do, we will split the data set according to the age group, and we will check according to the age group what will be the corresponding highest frequency for the respective choice of color, right? So that we can compute with the help of that mode, right? And suppose we are having the number of observations with us, we can take the sum of all observations, right? It is the simplest thing. Then dispersion, measures of dispersion, right? So measures of dispersion, what is the difference between central tendency and dispersion? Or what we can do with the respective dispersion, we can count the corresponding spread from its central value or average value, right? So what will be the respective variation from its central value, that we can count with the help of that standard deviation variance, right? And suppose if you are having the corresponding versatile answers or observation range in the sense what? It is the difference of maximum and minimum value that we have. On an average, what we can do, what will be the corresponding highest, or suppose we are having laboratory experiment, right? And we are going to give the heat to the corresponding that particular chemical, right? So in that situation, what we will do, we are just going to check what will be the maximum temperature required and what will be the minimum temperature required for the corresponding terms. Or in terms of medical, or what we can say medical studies, or we are interested to check the corresponding blood pressure of the person, then at that time we are going to check the corresponding range, what will be the maximum and minimum value for the respective observations, right? So we can count the respective terms, right? So apart from that, our interest is, suppose you are having numerical data set with you, and you are interested whether the data belongs to, means that it is coming from the normal population or not, right? So it is expected that whatever the data for the study, it is coming from normal population. In real life, there might be possibility that the corresponding distribution of your data will be somewhat different, right? So for that purpose, these are very important. It gives you the corresponding idea whether my data is a normal, or it gives you some pickedness over there, or it is a flattened, right? Or whether it is a positively skewed, it is what, it is moved towards one direction or what, right? Positively skewed or negatively, right? So we can identify the corresponding nature of the data set, right? Plot the data set, and then also we can observe that our data is normal or not. On an average, it should be closer towards center, right? So if most of the data will be closer towards center, then depends on the situation, depends on the situation, we can say that it is normal or not, because sensitivity matters what kind of variable under study. So what I will do, I will just ignore these things, because what we have considered age and gender, right? So some of the students, I have seen some of the research thesis also. So what they are going to do, they are going to compute the summary of this data, just like what age and gender, and they are going to count the corresponding mean and standard deviation of gender as well as corresponding if age in numerical form, then that will be okay, But if it is in corresponding that qualitative characteristic form or a specific group, then scientifically it is not proper to compute the corresponding mean and standard deviation of it for the respective gender, right? So I would like to show you what kinds of mistake they are going to perform. I will just show you mean and standard deviation, right? So I will continue with the things, right? We are interested to plot some plots. So you can select the appropriate plot. If it is discrete in nature, see here, you should able to understand what is the nature of your data is. If it is discrete in nature, then you can plot the bar chart. If your variable is continuous in nature, then you can go for histogram, right? And if what we have, we are having the corresponding variables, right? Just like what we are having the variable, just like what gender means, out of total, how many of them are male and how many of them are female, right? Or there will be in a proportion format split up is there, then we can use the pie chart, right? So we can select the appropriate chart according to what kind of nature of data you have, right? So what I will do, I will just select bar chart just for understanding purpose, and I will continue the things, right? What we are interested, whether you have to plot the respective chart according to frequencies or according to percentage, right? So in Excel also you might be able to get the corresponding bar chart as well as your that pie chart. Then you can select the appropriate way, that whether you are going to represent it in terms of percentage or in terms of frequency, right? Or in terms of what we can say, it is in terms of angle, right? So I will just continue the things, right? Then the next part is format, right? So while we are counting the frequencies, so generally what we can do, we are just going to arrange the corresponding frequencies in ascending order, right? Or whatever with the different class we have, we are going to arrange it in ascending order, right? Or you can take the corresponding descending order also, but you can select appropriate one, right? And you can compare the number of variables in a single table, right? So whatever with the large scale data we have, we are going to compress that data set in a single table, right? So I will not go for corresponding bootstrapping now. So I will just click on OK. So we will move towards what? The output window. This is an output window. It gives you the corresponding that what we can say, it is a command. You can perform the command. If you are quite familiar with the corresponding SPSS, then you can, without having the corresponding that menus, so you can directly use the respective commands to perform the analysis, right? But you should have the command on it first, right? So here what we have did, we have just counted the frequencies, right? So how many observations we have? I am having the 171 observations. There will be no missing is there, right? And it has given me the respective that descriptive statistics in terms of what? Total number of samples, mean of the samples, as well as standard deviation. See here. So it is scientifically means what? It is wrong that what we have 171 observations and mean will be what? 3.87, because I have recoded the data set in a particular class groups. So number of classes are 1 to 7. So automatically it takes the corresponding that in the form of codes and divided by the number of observations. So my mean is wrong. Okay. So in this situation, once you have recoded the data set, then it is not fruitful that you can perform the mean over here as well as the respective standard deviation. And see here, some of the research articles that I have seen, what they are going to do generally, you are having qualitative characteristics, gender in terms of male and female, and what you have did, that you have recoded it in terms of 1 and 2. You have recoded it in terms of 1 and 2, right? So 171 observations. In the 171 observations, there are a number of males and number of females are there, right? So automatically it will divide the respective term and it becomes 1.60. So that is wrong, right? And this standard deviation is also wrong. So while we are tabulating the data set, then you should know what kind of summary data analysis should be performed, or what kind of summary table should be there, right? So what we can do, we'll go in brief. As we have prepared the frequency distribution table, right? I have already defined the different age group of peoples of different ages, right? And it automatically converts the respective terms, right, that we have defined, and it gives me the respective frequency as well as percentage, right? So apart from that, the second variable is of gender, right? So here what we have, number of counts will be what? 68 females and 103 males are there, right? So what is the proper thing is there? So can it is appropriate that 68 plus 1 means 103? If we are going to take its average, then it becomes this one. Does this is appropriate? No, because these are two independent terms, qualitative terms. So if we are going to compute the corresponding mean, then it is not appropriate one, right? So you should be very careful. You just count the frequencies, that will be enough. You are going to compute the cumulative frequencies or whatever with the corresponding in terms of percentage, that is also allowed. But you try to avoid the corresponding mistakes, like to compute the mean and standard deviation of gender and all these things, right? So what we have did, we have selected the bar plot, right? So what we have, we are having the different classes, but they are disjoint in nature, right? So it has been defined in terms of what? These are defined in terms of respective bars, right? So this is the proper way, right? And second thing will be what? We are having the corresponding information of male and females. So it is also represented with the help of corresponding bar chart. So instead of that, we can compute the corresponding pie chart, or we can deal with the pie chart, right? So that also useful in descriptive statistics, right? We are just going to describe our data set. Means all these are terms comes under your statistical analysis. Okay, means now you should be familiar with the definition of statistics first, right, before going to perform the analysis. So what is the basic definition of statistics? Statistics is the science which deals with the collection of data, tabulation of data, then analysis and interpretation of numerical data set, right? So what we have, we should have the corresponding numerical data set to perform the corresponding analysis. And there are two main branches of statistics. So two main branches are, first one is the descriptive statistics. In descriptive statistics, we are just going to collect the data, tabulate data, and we are just going to explore or describe our data set. And in the second branch, what we have, we are having the corresponding inferential analysis. In the inferential analysis, we are going to assume, or we are just going to define some hypothesis first, right? And we are going to validate by performing experiment or survey, right? So for that purpose, you should be familiar with the term of what is the meaning of hypothesis, right? So in your subsequent lectures, there will be separate sessions on the testing of hypothesis and all these things. So my focus is on to perform the analysis. You should be, you are already familiar with the respective terms. That is my pre-assumption. Okay. So after having all the basics, we are moving towards the data analysis part or actual data analysis process, right? So what I will do, I will just go towards again data set. So analysis tool, what we are having various options, right? So what we can forms the tables according to our requirement. If we want to make the cross tabulation various data set, right? I would like to just show you one thing over here. Suppose you are interested to check the significance. Here I am having the data set of the corresponding this corona infected peoples, right? So I am interested whether the blood group is having some kind of sense, means a particular blood group people is having more more infection as compared to other ones. Suppose that that is my interest to check, right? So what I will do, according to the corresponding gender, I would like to make cross tabulation of it, right? So what I will do, I will select the corresponding blood groups, different kinds of blood group people we have. Yes, or suppose blood pressure is also another part, right? Whether the corresponding, there will be a significant difference between the what wrong with the blood pressure may occur during that situation for the respective person, right? So that I would like to check. And does the age matters, right? According to age, does the corresponding that blood pressure matters for the respective that person, right? So it is just a part of interest. I would like to tell you that we are going to assume or stating some assumptions, right? So how to do, we are going to perform exact test, right? So in the exact test, or we are going to assuming that asymptotically distributed, right? All the data will be what it goes towards, what it is in normally distributed, and what wrong with the respective tails are, they are asymptotic in nature. They are closer to zero line, but they are not respective to the 0 1, right? Then statistics. Here we are having one option in cross tabulation as statistics. So you can perform various kinds of analysis over here. First one is the chi-square test, right? So chi-square test, if we are having qualitative data set, right, then we can perform the different classification in terms of what, that contingency, we can form the respective contingency in the different age group, and we are going to classify it. Then suppose we are having numerical data set, suppose we are interested to deal with the height of plant, right, and growth of roots. We are having the corresponding information with us, right? So we are interested, if we are going to add some fertilizer, does it make some kind of sense? So what wrong with the fertilizer, it is in grams we have, right? We are having the respective information with us, and we are interested to correlate it with the corresponding height of that plant, or height, whatever with the root length, right? So we can find the relationship between the variables, right? So when we are interested to find the relationship between variables, and we are just interested to explore the relationship between it, right, then we can use these correlations, right? So my data is somewhat different, so that I am not going to use over here, right? I will select chi-square, right? So depends on what kind of data you have, means your data is a ordinal, or whether your data is nominal form, or what we can have data types, right? So you should be able to understand different kinds of data types. Data types are there. First one is a nominal, right? Then ordinal, then ratio and interval scale, right? Ratio and interval, they are in the corresponding that numerical format that we have, right? So appropriately you can select your appropriate test according to your data set, right? So I will skip this corresponding test for my data. I will go toward the next part, right? So you can select the corresponding count of your observed frequency that you have, and based on that you are trying to expect something, or you are interested to find the corresponding expected frequencies of it based on the observed values. Then we can get the respective counts, right? So I will not count over here, I would not like to count over here, right? And suppose if you are using chi-square test or fitting of chi-square distribution, right? So at that time there is a condition, or there is one assumption regarding to the data set, that whatever may be the frequency count, it should be greater than 5, right? So it should be greater than 5. If it is less than 5, then automatically it will merge in the previous class, right? So that I will select over here that option, if it is less than 5. So I will, it is just a part of understanding, right? Then next one will be what, Z test. So Z test will be what, we are interested to deal with the data set, with the assumption that our data is coming from normal population, and whatever may be the sample size of our study is large. And if it is large, then we can perform the respective test. Right? There might be a situation that you are interested to deal with the corresponding a single sample or whatever with the corresponding sample observations from the population for a single sample or two samples, right? Or there might be a situation of the experiment as in terms of outcome, in terms of what success or failure, right? So it is in terms of what proportion, right? So that we can appropriately use the terminology, right? Again, we can count the percentage with the help of what row wise percentage we are interested, or column wise percentage, or total we have. Then the next part is what? Residuals. Residuals means what? While we are dealing with the respective data set, suppose we are having some observed frequencies with us, right? We are performing some experimental studies and we are having some observed, or we have observed some readings of the data set at that time. What we can do, suppose we want to forecast somewhat future, or we are interested to deal with the corresponding data set and we are interested to develop one mathematical model for it, right? So while we are dealing with the mathematical model at that time, whatever be the developed model we have, it should be perfect one, or whatever be the accuracy of your model should be what? Perfect one, right? So for that purpose, the corresponding that residual or that should be what? List one, right? So if you are reading a number of paper research articles, then you might be find out the respective term as residuals, or that residual or mean square or residual mean square is term is there, right? So these are performance measures, right? So how you can say that whatever that you have developed, or whatever the model that you have developed, its efficiency is more, right? So for that purpose, it is essential that the residual value will be what? It should be least, right? It should be closer to zero. If it is high, then automatically there will be more variation in your observations, right? So what I will do, I will go to the corresponding next. I will continue, right? Then the next part is what? Format. We are going to arrange our data set in the form of what? Ascending or descending order. Bootstrapping. So in bootstrapping, we are having the number of to what we can say large data set, and we are trying to get the respective samples. Then it will be better to reduce the respective error, bootstrapping, right? And with that, I will just click on it. Okay, right? So yes. So see here in the output window, what we have, we are having the respective information of the number of observations, right? Or the respective that question we have, right? So it automatically computes the corresponding association between gender and blood group. How many 171 observations, no missing is there, right? So 100% data is available with us, right? So in the cross tabulation, what we have did, we have cross tabulated different two different questions according to gender and as, or what you can say, gender and blood groups, right? So easily we can observe that the respect and purpose your questionnaire, according to that you can perform cross tabulation, right? So if you are having observations, so instead of that, what we can perform the cross tabulation and can just describe our, right, our data set over here. So it is the so easily we just we have for the understanding purpose here we are assuming that whether there is a significance difference of the different blood group peoples with genders, or means what with the corresponding those infected peoples, right? It is the part of interest. So we are having these number of counts, 171 observations I have. So this is the summary of the number of patients, whether they are means what, according to their gender, right? 68 females and 103 males are there, right? So according to the different blood groups, then what we can observe, whatever may be the data collected or that we have collected, in that data set, we are having the respective number of counts of especially A positive, B positive, as well as AB positive blood group peoples are more. Also, O positive peoples are more, right, in our study. And based on that study, what we have did, we are interested to find the significance of the corresponding gender-wise significance of the peoples, right? And see here, in the second table, what we have we are having the different values of just like what Pearson chi-square value. What it indicates, so Pearson value, either you can compute it manually or the software gives you directly, right? So here our assumption is what, there is no significance difference between the corresponding patients, or there was no significance difference between gender wise to the infected peoples, right, or the respective blood groups. So the assumption, null hypothesis that we have assumed, it has been what, it has been proved, right? Because what we have, we can count the respective observations, right? And we have performed chi-square test, and here we are having one value 0.580. So what it indicates, so what is the meaning of that 0.580, right? In general, while we are performing any kind of experiment or any kind of study, then there might be a situation that the error may occur, right? And what kind of error or what percentage of error you are going to tolerate over there, right? So here, what we can do, in general, 5% error will be what? It is tolerable. But depends on the situation, depends on the sensitivity. If you are going to perform some pharmaceutical studies, if you are going to develop new kinds of drugs, then it is not, means what, whatever with the corresponding that confidence interval or tolerance level, it will be least one, it might be 1%, right? Or it will be somewhat different because it may affect directly on the corresponding human being. Any chance of having what, more number of variation, then it may cause death to the respective that patient also, right? So the case will be what, very sensitive. Depends on the situation, we can use the corresponding that tolerance level, right? And according to that, in general, we are going to assume it is of 5%, right? But what we found, it is less than that, right? So in terms of percentage, it is, or we can count it as 2.0. If our p value is 0.05, then automatically what we can see, there is significance difference between the corresponding gender as well as the respective group patients, right? So it is just part of just part of example for understanding. According to your objectives and studies, you define your null hypothesis as well as, and then cross-check it with the corresponding actual observations or readings that you have taken for the corresponding your study purpose, right? So it is one of the part. Then the next part is what, similarly terms blood pressure that we assume to be what, in the three scales, low, moderate, and high, right? So it is also insignificant that we observe. Also age wise and blood group wise any significance, so that is also what, insignificant that we have. It is based on what, the respective that significance value, right? It is greater than 0.05, right? And according to blood pressure and age, right? So those patients are there, those who are infected by the respective that disease, what we observed, most of them are having what? Moderate blood pressure level in the corresponding infected level, right? Because if we focus on the counts, right? So out of 107, 151 are having what? Corresponding moderate blood pressure over there, right? So it is insignificant in corresponding situation. So it is somewhat associated with your chi-square term. The next part that would to go for, we are interested to compare the means, right? While you are performing this or any experimental study, then you might be defined some standard specific value, right? And while you are actually observing the number of observations, or you are going to note down the corresponding observations, then you are just going to cross validating that whether the corresponding average am I of you? Yes. Suppose there are some sample observations and are interested whether they are means they are representative of the corresponding that population. We can do data is coming from the null population, then we can go for the parametric test. Then we can go for the corresponding parametric test, right? For comparing the means for independent or one sample. Yes. So what we have, we are having a single population. In that population, we are going to extract some sample observations, and we want to just validate that does it follows the respective that standard or not, right? So for that purpose, we are going to make the use of single sample t-test. Okay, so compare me. We are interested to compare the means, right? So there will be what? Any significance of the respective that means, right? So once we are going to use one sample t-test, right? So now whatever with the data in front of you, it is in qualitative characteristic form, or it is in the terms of what? That ordinal form. So it is somewhat different, but just for the understanding purpose, I will consider some of the observations as suppose height, right? It is one of the parameter that we are going to use. Suppose average height of Indian people is what? 165 centimeter. So here I am going to define that my standard value will be what? 165 centimeter, right? So here you can select the options, your confidence interval percentage, right? So by default, it is 95%. So if sensitivity will be more, then we can define it as 99%. That also means we can change by own, right? So what we have, we are just going to deal with one sample t-test statistic, right? We are interested to deal with the corresponding that sample observations, and they are approximately means what? These are unbiased estimator of your population mean, means whether they are correlating the respective term or not, right? That is our interest, and that we have to check with the help of this corresponding t-test statistic, right? So here also we have to define the corresponding null hypothesis that average height of Indian people will be what? 165 centimeter, right? And alternative will be what? Alternative will be somewhat different. Either it is what? It is different from 165 centimeter, or whether it is what we can say, it is less than 165 centimeter, or it is greater than 165 centimeter. Means what? Your significance will be what? Whether it is a two-sided or one-sided, that matters, right? So what I will do, I have already coded that term over here, so I will just click over here 0, right? It is just for understanding purpose, right? So we will check the corresponding output of it, right? So for one sample statistic, what we have, I have coded that data set in this form as, right? So number of observations, it gives us summary, mean, respective standard deviation. Actually what we have given the range of the centimeter height. Okay, so that's why here count is somewhat different, right? So that's why here I have selected that test value equals to what? 0. Or sometimes in some of the research, they may consider that there is a null difference, or they may assume that null difference wording is there. So they are going to use in most of the educational studies, while they are comparing the corresponding students and their IQ levels, and they are going to select some data set of different subjects. They are going to perform some questionnaire for mathematics, as well as some economics, as well as some physics, or all these things. And they are just going to ask the number of questions, and they are going to collect the corresponding responses from the peoples, and they are trying to correlate the respective terms, whether there is a significance difference or not, right? So the difference will be what? Difference will be assuming at that time 0 for the different purpose. So here it gives us the corresponding t-test statistic value. It is nothing but the ratio of mean minus what? The corresponding test statistic to the standard error of mean, right? So automatically, if we are going to divide 2.39 divided by 0.071, then we will get the respective that test statistic over here, right? And what will be the degree of freedom? Number of observations will be what? 171. So here respective degree of freedoms will be what? 170. So why we consider 170 instead of 171? Because we are going to estimate from the corresponding that population, right? And at the time of estimation, 1 degree is to be reduced, right? So here we are going to take the count of 170 observations, right? It is just part of understanding. As our number of samples will be greater than 30, so we can go with the corresponding Z test. Okay, so we can go with the Z test, because T test is used for small samples. So whatever with the respective sample size will be what? It is less than or equal to what? 30. But I am having the respective data set with me, so that it is just for the understanding purpose. I would like to explain you the respective results. So apart from that, so here what we observed, it gives us the corresponding significant two-tailed. It gives us information of two-tailed significance level, and it gives us 0.000. So most of the research articles, you may found that there are some statistical tables, and in which they are just going to discuss the word or significance level, right? So that significance level means what? What may be your null hypothesis that you have proposed, it has been rejected, right? So in terms of, suppose if you are manufacturing any kind of drug and your drug will be what more efficient than the existing one, right? So at that time, so it is very important that it should gives you the significance result. Otherwise, whatever may be the corresponding that new development, it is of no use. If the existing one and new one gives you the same results, then there is a no need to produce, or there is a no need to manufacture the new one, right? So for that purpose, your initial null hypothesis will be different in that situation. It should not be the two-sided, right? So it will be one-sided always. And whatever may be the null hypothesis you are going to assume, it will be in the form of what? It will be in the form of composite, right? So it is in the form of composite one, right? So we can count the things, and with the help of that, we can deal with the respective data sets. So this is somewhat associated with your single sample t-test, right? So what I will do, I will just go towards again our data set. And then in the analyze, what we have, the next part is what? Independent sample t-test. So there might be a situation that suppose you are going to compare the groups or two different groups of two different places, right? So there might be a situation that the number of samples will be unequal, right? So at that time, we are going to assume that variance is constant, or whatever may be the variation that you observed, it will be the same for two different that places or two different groups or two different what we can say school students, right? So for that purpose, we are going to make the use of independent sample t-test, right? So it is a drag down menu you have, right? So you can select the variables as per your study, right? So you can define the group, right? And according to the group, you can count the respective terms, right? So my data is somewhat different. So it is just part of understanding that you can use for that one. The next thing is what? Paired sample t-test. So paired sample t-test, what is the use of? So paired sample t-test means what? Your sample is dependent, right? So means the situation in which your sample will be fixed. Just like what? Suppose if you are not feeling well and you are visiting to the doctor, right? So he is going to take the corresponding your blood samples as well as what we can see your blood pressure, right? And all the counts, right? Sugar level and all these terms before going to start the treatment of the respective that respondent or that patient, right? So after starting the corresponding treatment on that respondent, right, what will be the respective change? Whether he may feel better, right, or there will be an adverse condition is there, or adverse reaction will be there. So at that time, your sample will be what? It is a fixed, right? So you are going to perform the treatment, and after treatment, what will be the respective change? We are going to note down it. And in that situation, what we will do? In that situation, what we will do? We can just make the use of this paired sample t-test, right? So paired sample t-test, right? So most of the time in the newspaper, you might be read the corresponding small advertisement that you can reduce your weight, right? You can reduce your weight, and they are going to show you some two different images of same person, right? Before and after. You might be get the respective change in the respective image itself, right? So for that purpose, your sample will be what? It is a dependent. Person will be the same, right? And we're going to apply the treatment on him. And after that, what will be the respective change occurs if we are having some certain kinds of data set with us. So for that purpose, we are going to make the use of respective paired sample t-test, right? Then suppose if we are having more than two variables under study, right, whether they are coming from the same population or different population, and what we are interested to respective change in the variables, right? So in that situation, what we will do, according to treatment, means we are applying the different treatments. Suppose you want to increase the corresponding yield of the respective crop, right? And you are applying some different treatments on the corresponding that soil or that particular area, right? So we are just trying to make the comparison between them. We are just trying to take the observation and then we cannot make the use of t-test over there. So there will be a restriction. If we are having only 2 samples, then what we can do, we can apply the corresponding that t-test over there. If we are having corresponding sample observations from a means single sample observations or 2 sample observations from the same population or a different population, then it is restricted, right? But if it is more than 2 treatments will be there, right? Then we can go for what? We can go for the analysis of variation, or we are going to compute the corresponding variation of means for more than 2 treatments, right? So we can take the help of corresponding one-way analysis of variance, right? Then if we are having more generalized data set with us, right, then we can develop the respective model with the help of generalized linear model form, whether it is a univariate case, right, or multivariate case, right? So depends on the situation, we can develop the respective model, right? So generalized, it is again what? We are having the number of variable under study. They are independent in nature, and we are trying to focus on the respective response, right? So we can take the help of it, right? So what is the thing is that variables under study, right? Means what is your objective? According to that objective, if it is necessary, then and then only you can apply the respective terms. Otherwise, it is a software, right? So if you are inserting some numerical values, it gives you some kind of answer. So you can develop some kind of things over there, but it should be what? Sensible, right? Again, you can develop the corresponding models or mixed models by identifying the nature of your data set. Then next thing is what? Correlation. We are interested to means explore the data set or relationship between the 2 variables or more than 2 variables. Then what we can do? We can consider the respective partial correlation. We are just going to consider first 2 variable and then the secondary variables, found the relationship between them, right? Then in regression means what? What is the difference between correlation and regression? In correlation, there are 2 independent variables. In regression, what we have? We are having one independent variable and another dependent variable. This is for simple case. But if you have more than one independent variable, just like what? What may be the yield of the crops will be what? It depends on what? It depends on temperature, what may be the rainfall, then what may be the corresponding fertilizers that you have used, right? So for that purpose, your number of independent variables are varying in nature, right? And we are interested to find the independent effect as well as its corresponding joint effect, right? So for that purpose, initially we are trying to compute its correlation. If there will be no correlation between the terms, then we can skip the respective variable from the study, right? So there are various kinds of options we have, right? Depends on your nature of the data set. You can select the appropriate model, right? Suppose we are having the model and its response, it is in binary nature. Suppose in terms of what? Success or failure, right? Or it is in either in the form of what? Yes or no, right? And then in that situation, we are going to classify, or we can take the help of this regression in corresponding what we can say computer science field or data mining field as it is one of the predictive technique. It is one of the supervised learning method with which we can forecast the things, right? So according to the situation, we are going to apply the proper regression model over there. So depends what kind of study you have, right? So there might be a situation that if you are performing experimental studies, so whatever the readings are, they might be what? They might be in the form of exponential form, right? So you have to convert it, or we cannot deal with the corresponding that exponential situation directly. So what we can do, we can convert the or transform the data into the form of what? Log linear form. And after that, we can identify the respective model, and then we are going to move towards what? Forecasting, right? So here we can use the corresponding that log linear models, right? The next term associated with it is what? Neural networks. So in neural networks, it is somewhat advanced terminology with which what we are trying to do, we are trying to forecast the corresponding response variable. In the corresponding neural networks, we are having the corresponding number of hidden neurons, number of activation functions we have, and with that, what we are trying to do, we are trying to find the corresponding your response values, and accurate. We are trying to increase the respective accuracy level of it. If we are getting more accurate result, then we can forecast in the respective future values up to a certain extent, right? But what is the thing over here? If you are going to perform the neural networks, and if you are increasing the corresponding hidden layers, then automatically complexity will get increased, right? So manual calculation will be somewhat a difficult task. It may take some of hours, right? Or might be in terms of months also, if you are going to perform it manually. So instead of that, if we are going to make the use of this neural network corresponding tool, then we can easily optimize or classify the respective terms, right? Then suppose if you want to explore your data set, right? And having some difficult data set with you, or geographical information with you, and you want to classify it, right? So at that time, what we can do, we can make the clusters of similar kind of data set, or we are going to classify our data according to similarity and dissimilarity of it, right? So various clustering algorithms are there with which we can classify our set, right? Just like what? Suppose we are having some information of geographical information of a particular region. So what we can do, we are interested in the corresponding groundwater quality, right? And for that purpose, what we have did, we have collected some water samples from various locations, right? And then we can do the corresponding chemical analysis of it, right? And after performing the chemical analysis, what we are interested is, we are interested the corresponding area, it should be classified according to its water quality, right? So with the help of the GIS software, what we can do, we can plot the respective samples, right? And based on what the geochemical whatever may be the analysis that we have performed, and based on that, according to World Health Organization or Bureau of Indian Standards, according to that, we are going to classify the corresponding that water quality, right? And after classifying the water quality, what we can do, we are just going to visualize the things. We can form the different clusters, right? So how many clusters we can get, that is uncertain. It will depend on what kind of observation you have, right? It is not fixed, it is uncertain, the number of clusters we have. right? So we can deal with the respective situations. So for that purpose, hierarchical cluster is there. We can develop the corresponding dendrogram, and according to the similarity it forms, or with the help of agglomerative and adhesive methods are there, with which we can classify the respective samples, right? And those samples giving the same or similar results, they may form the respective clusters. Okay, then suppose if you are having the qualitative data set with you, and suppose you are having binary answers of the questions, right? If you are having the binary answers of your questions, so at that time, what we can do, we are going to classify them. We are going to classify them in a certain level of extent, so that we can develop a tree, right? Or what we can say, it is in terms of root cause analysis, right? It can be helpful for root cause analysis. So we are going to split up the things, answers will be pretty, and we are going towards what, up to the last end, right? After that there will be no kind of classification, so we can count the corresponding probabilities, right? We can count the probabilities in terms of what, prior probabilities. Means if there will be some certain situation and there will be some certain condition, so for that purpose these trees will be helpful. Okay, these trees are helpful. The next thing is what, suppose if you have more than or if you are having binary response, means dependent variable will be what, either it is in the form of what, success or failure, or two different classes. So in that situation, what is our interest? We are interested to classify the data in appropriate class, right? It is just for example, suppose we want to classify the corresponding all students at financial income, whether they are rich or they are poor, right? So if this will be the situation, then what we can do, then we are going to collect the information, means their annual income, their parents income, as well as their locality, whether they are belongs to rich class or what will be the area that we have, right? Then corresponding according to their family's educational level and all these things, right? I am going to collect all the information, and based on that I would like to classify that the person is rich or poor, right? We are going to discriminate it. So there might be a possibility that at the time of inserting the data set, I may commit any kind of mistake, right? So the corresponding class will get changed, right? So for that purpose, we can develop the model, right? We are going to make the use of Fisher's discriminant function, which gives you the corresponding idea regarding to what, proper classification, or there will be any kind of what we can say, we are going to count the probability of misclassification, and we are trying to reduce the corresponding probability of misclassification, right? And we can increase the performance of our model, right? The next thing is it comes in. So while you are performing the similarity and dissimilarity of the samples, so how many near neighbor samples that you are going to allow in the respective cluster. So for that purpose, we can take the help of this nearest neighbor clustering algorithm, right? So according to your data set, right? According to your data set, you can use it appropriately. Then the next part is what? Dimension reduction technique, right? Or what we can say, it is also called sometimes principal component analysis. So in the principal component analysis, what we are going to do, we are having the number of independent variables with us, and we are trying to check the corresponding association between the variables, and based on these variables, we are trying to identify the number of component which gives you results, or suppose we 20, but there might be a situation that not 100 ways are useful purpose or so what we do, we are going to take the help of this dimension technique. We are identify the factors may affect you tables under study. Okay, all right. So what we have, we are trying to reduce the respective factors or identify the significant factors, and we can deal with it. Data that perform the test, right? Then the another part is what? Non-parametric test. Okay, all right. So does not follows the normality. If will be in, or it is in qualitative characteristic in form, then it is not proper or proper statistical tools. Of that we can do, we can make the alternative test non-parametric, that we can perform analysis of it, right? The next part is forecasting. Suppose if you are having the corresponding time series data set with you, right? Suppose most of you or some of you might be studying, those who are from economics background, they might be studying the corresponding crude oil prices, or they might be study on the corresponding dollar prices and its impact on corresponding what we can say gold prices and all these things, right? And we are having the large scale data or daily data set with us, or we are having LPG prices data set with us, and we are interested to develop a model for it, right? And our data, or we are having daily data or monthly data with us, right? And we are interested to identify the model, and we are trying to forecast the respective model, right? So for that purpose, we this option will be fruitful, right? If you are having the data set, time series data set with you, then you can take the help of this forecast tool, and with that forecast tool you can perform the analysis, right? So first of all, identify the nature of data, whether your data will be what, it is a stationary or not, right? Whether it shows some seasonality, whether it shows some kind of trends, right? Or it shows some kind of what we can say random natures, right? So first of all, we can identify that thing, whether there will be an autocorrelation between the corresponding sample observations, means in the for current prices, means what we can say current prices may affect on your tomorrow's price, or it might be possibility that it may affect on the tomorrow's prices, right? So subsequent association between the just preceding task over there, right? So for that purpose, we are interested to check whether the autocorrelation between the data set you have, if you are performing the signal processing studies, then at that time, that is an interesting part of it, to find the autocorrelation between the terms, right? So we can perform all these tools to find out the appropriateness of the model, and we can use the model for future forecasting purpose. Then the next thing is what? Survival analysis. Those who are performing laboratory experiments or life science students, they can take the help of these lice tables. Kaplan-Meier plan will be there. Cox regression will be there. Their laboratory experiment in terms of success and failure, all these parts. So while they are performing some insect study and all these things, so this survival analysis will be quite useful. Then the next thing will be what? Multiple response. It depends on your respective observations. You can define the respective variable sets. If there will be more than one response variable is there, then we can define the respective term and we can analyze the data set, right? So next part associated with the data analysis, what? If you are going to perform some hypothetical studies, if you are performing some hypothetical models, then what you can do, you can use the different values for it, and you can perform the simulation of the data set. Otherwise, what you can do, if you have collected some secondary data set from some authenticate source, then also you can use this simulation to get the proper model, right? And the next part of it is what? Quality control. If you are performing some industrial studies, right? In the industrial studies, if you want to improve the corresponding performance of the production process, then at that use the appropriate control charts over there, and you should try to reduce the corresponding assignable causes of errors. So there might be a situation that there may be presence of chance cause of errors that we cannot reduce it. That is beyond the corresponding human being, but we can reduce the corresponding assignable causes of errors, right? So for the improving quality of your product, we can make the use of these control charts, right? Then area under curve, or what we can say, that operating characteristic curve, which gives you the corresponding what will be the false positive and false negative data set we have. We are trying to reduce the respective error, right? And its percentage will be computed in the form of what? Either area under curve will be what? Either 1 or it is in terms of 100%, right? We can visualize our data set, right? It is also used for somewhat advanced purpose for the industrial aspect, as well as what we can do if we are interested in corresponding sensitivity analysis, as well as suppose if you are having some qualitative data set, just like you may tweet something, right? And there will be some what we can say, so people are going to make their statements over there. Either it is in the form of some positive one or negative one, right? So you are going to classify the respective statements, or it is comes under what? Text mining, right? So in the text, after performing the text mining, what we can do, we are interested to deal with that corresponding text analysis or text mining analysis or sentiment analysis. We can take the help of this ROC curve. Okay, so these are some specific data tools that we have, with which we can deal with the corresponding various kinds of data set, right? And there are some graphical tools also that you can use in your studies or in your research angles in a proper way, right? So it depends on the situation, depends on the variable, what kind of variable you have. You can use the appropriate corresponding that graphs and charts, right? So these graphs and charts also a part of statistic, right? It comes under what? Just going to describing your data set or just going to explore your information, right? So this is somewhat basics of it. So if you are having any queries, then I would like to ask to the participant that if you are having any questions, then please you do ask the questions. Otherwise, we will stop over here.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Hello, huh? Yes.
Sir, it was a very excellent and very essential lecture. Thank you very much for that. Just one request is there, sir. Please give us this PPT or this presentation or the recording of this lecture, because it will help for forever for us. So it's request, sir. Please do needful.
Okay, no issue. I will share it to corresponding organizer. They will send it, give it to you. Okay.
Yes, sir. Sir, is there any book regarding this that can help us to know all these things?
Yes, there are number of books actually. So if you require the corresponding soft copy of the books, then I will share it to you.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Any other questions?
Sir, I also have a question, sir.
Yes.
Sir, in literature research or in languages, how far this analysis is useful?
Yes.
Can
So
this be applied in the we like it is not possible to apply all this in the language research.
Yes. Yes, it is not always possible, but suppose in languages, if you are interested to perform some writing style of some of the authors, right? Just like Visa Khandekar's writing style, or what we can say Pula Deshpande writing style, or any of the author or any of the person, he is having some specific kind of writing style, right? So in language or literature, what we can do, we can apply the stylostatistics over there. We can identify means the person who is having the respective specific kind of writing style is there, right?
Okay.
Or what we can say, just like suppose in sentiment analysis, what we do, we are having some text information with us, right? So you are having some paragraph. In that paragraph, we are having the number of words, right? Some of them are in positive in nature, some of them are in negative in nature, right? So we can identify the overall impact of it, right? What are the different number of counts we have, right?
Okay.
So we can find the corresponding precision level of that data set with the help of that text mining, right? So for that purpose, our statistical tools in terms of frequency count is useful.
Okay.
So
okay, thanks.
Okay, all right. Yes, anybody has?
So I had a question, sir. So if we use Z test or T test and our sample size is 100, which one will be feasible for us, like a pre-test and post-test data? When you use pre-test, post-test data, sir, which test will be suitable for analysis?
Okay, you are having sample is dependent. That is your query.
Yes.
Okay, so what we have, our assumption will be what? Data should be coming from the normal population, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
so, data should be normal. First of all, we have to check the normality of the data set, right? And as your assumption will be what, or you're considering the number of observations will be 100, right? If it is 100, then
yes.
we should go for the Z test. We should go for the Z test because that will be useful for large samples.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Anybody has any more questions, doubt?
Anyone else? If you have any query in the session, you ask the question. If there is any question, can we conclude our lecture?
Excuse me, sir. Sir, it is only useful for statistic tools only. Otherwise, we cannot help. We cannot get help of these tools.
We are not getting your voice, madam, properly.
Sir, only for this.
Hello?
This lecture is only for statistic tools. Otherwise, that last time that madam says that it is not useful to language literature or other subject.
No, it is not the case. It is useful for all the studies. Suppose if you are performing literature study, right? And what you are going to do, you are going to make the summary of various kinds of researchers or the authors, those who are writing various kinds of literatures, right? So what you can do, you can form the respective tabular form information. That is also what it is. It comes under summary statistics, right? You are going to form the corresponding what is the respective that era or time period in which the respective author has written something, right? You are going to form an chronological order, right? So if you are going to form a chronological order and you are just going to explore in a single table, then also what we can say, it is a part of descriptive statistics.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, anybody else? Anybody has any question?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay, then. So I would like to hand over the mic towards organizer.
Thank you very much for your informative session, sir. We are very happy with you, all of you. The all participants. Do we want another lecture from sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We want that because it's not for this coursework only, but it is useful for whole PhD work.
Yes, sure. We will try another lecture of sir. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. We will conclude the session. Our next session will be start our morning. All of you have filled your attendance.
Hello, sir.
Oh, huh?
We have one request, as Mule sir told, and in the morning section, that sir also told that we will provide the PPTs or the notes to the organizer, and they will give you. But we still we didn't get any notes or any PPT. So please provide
You
that
will
one.
get it. Have a patience.
Yes,
You
sir.
will
Yes,
get
sir.
it.
I will get the, you will get that PPTs, all of you. But
Yes,
some
sir.
of the you are asking the these the notes are available in Marathi or it's available in Hindi. Actually, it's not for giving notes. You can get the PPTs that our lecturers are giving the sessions.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Another that can't get in particular notes because you are doing PhD, right? You are doing PhD, you are about to do one research. You have to prepare your own notes for this area.
Yes, sir. We are waiting for that PPTs.
PPTs will get soon.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
All of you have filled the attendance. We are sharing the attendance sheet daily in our link.
Thank you all of you for
Don't share your name in here chat box. In chat box, I have shared a link, that is the Google form link. You have to fill up that Google form to keep your attendance, that you're saying you are present. If you are not filling your attendance form, I am again have shared this. Please don't share your name here. It is not your attendance. I have shared Google form. You have to fill up that Google form for your attendance. पुन्हा एकदा सांगतो मराठीमध्ये, या चॅट मध्ये आपले नाव पाठवून तुमचे अटेंडन्स लागणार नाहीये. तिथे आपण गुगल फॉर्मची एक लिंक शेअर केलेली आहे. ती लिंक वर जाऊन तुम्हाला गुगल फॉर्म भरायचा आहे दररोजच्या दररोज. आज सांगितलं भाग्यशाली मॅडम, नोट्स ज्या आहेत त्या तुम्हाला बनवायच्या आहेत. मला फक्त पीपीटीज मिळतील.
Sir, I have successfully fulfilled the feedback form. So may I leave this meet right now?
What?
I have fulfilled the Google form. So may I leave this?
Yes, sure, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Shravan sir.
Sir.
Shravan sir, can
Yes,
you
sir.
hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes.
तुमच्या सूचना देणं झाल्या असतील आणि सर्व विद्यार्थ्यांना काही प्रॉब्लेम नसेल, आजच्या सेशनचं मग आपण इथं थांबूया. आजची मीटिंग तुम्ही एंड करावी.
Yes, sir. Yes. बिलकुल. No problem.
परत एकदा सूचना देतो अटेंडन्सच्या संदर्भाने. अटेंडन्स साठी अवेअर राहा सर्वांनी. गुगल फॉर्मची लिंक तुमच्या चॅट बॉक्स मध्ये झूमच्या प्रत्येक तुम्हाला मिळेल. गुगल फॉर्म भरून फिलअप करून तुम्हाला त्यानंतर तुमची अटेंडन्स कन्सिडर होईल. त्याचप्रमाणे चॅट बॉक्स मध्ये प्रत्येकानं आपापलं नाव टाईप करायचं आहे. जॉईन झाल्यानंतर
काल पाठवले बरोबर नाही वाटलं.
Sir, excuse me. Sir, is there class in the weekend, like Saturday and Sunday?
We will notify you on the group regarding this.
Thank you, sir.
ते आता पाहुणे झाले तिथले 3-4 दिवस.
Okay, then we will
आपले माईक म्यूट करून बाजूला वेगळ्या गप्पा मारायच्या आहेत. यानंतर असे जर कुणाचे माईक चालू राहिले तर त्यांना अब्सेंट कन्सिडर केल्या जाईल.
जाणार आहे बाई.
We will end our session. Thank you so much for your patience. Join tomorrow 11 AM for the next session. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
जर आज जरा पूर्ण जरा म्हणतात या ना हो टॅली करून घेऊ चलिए तर तुमचा फॉर्म काढा आपल्या दोघांचं टॅली करू तर मला 6 वाजता गाईड
काही वेळ आहे ना
नाही तेच पण दोघांचं टॅली करून घेऊ
घेतलं ना पहिले हे करा
बस बाई अनुभव माहिती सागर पण या पुढचाच आहे ना सागर पण या पुढचाच आहे बाई तुम्ही कुठे गेल्या होत्या इतक्या समोर तिकडं